Reading with your kids.
Hey, so great to see you. Come on in. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Stitcher, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Teresa Robeson. She is here to tell us about her brand new book, Two Bicycles in Beijing. If you are looking for something fun to do with your family in the greater Boston area, we have a couple of suggestions. Come on out to the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library on March 21st from noon to 3 p.m. and be a part of our Reading with Your Kids Day at the library. We're going to have our totally interactive magic show. We're going to have magic workshops. We're going to have story times, book giveaways, and the folks at the Boston Public Schools Parent University will be presenting a special parenting workshop. I'm real excited. I love the East Boston branch of the Boston Public Library and would love to meet all of you there. It's happening March 21st from noon to 3 p.m. And on April 5th, come on down to Kingston Collection in Kingston, Massachusetts to be a part of the South Shore Kids Expo. There's going to be all sorts of fantastic activities at South Shore Kids Expo. The Reading with Your Kids podcast is going to be one of those great activities. We're going to have our totally interactive magic show, and we're also going to have a totally interactive booth where you and your kids can find out what it's like to be a part of the podcast. It's all happening April 5th at Kingston Collection. It's the South Shore Kids Expo. Joining us right now from the great state of Indiana. I am so excited. It's kind of like kid-lit royalty here today. Our guest today is coming back. She was on the show earlier talking about her beautiful book, Queen of Physics. Since that visit, she has been, she's won the American Library Association Asian and Pacific American Award. Please welcome back to the show the author of the soon-to-be-released book, Bicycles in Beijing, Teresa Robson. Teresa, how are you?
I'm good, thanks, Jed. Thanks so much for having me back. It's so exciting to be back.
Yeah, it's exciting to have you back. We were talking about Queen of Physics last time you were here, and now you've kind of jumped into that spot of royalty from the American Library Association. First off, how did that feel getting that award?
It feels amazing. Confession. I actually wasn't quite sure what the email I got from my publisher was. I saw that it said, "Congratulations, Teresa and Rebecca, my illustrator. You have won the American Library Association, Youth Media Awards for Asian and Pacific American." And I thought, oh, that's nice. And I forwarded it to my agent, and I continued to go on exercising with my cell phone in my back pocket where I don't get cell reception. And next thing you know, I'm done. I look at my phone, and I have these screaming texts and voicemail messages from my agent saying, "How could you drop a bomb like this on me and then not be available for a phone call?" And I said, "What?" She said, "It's a big deal. It's a huge award." I said, "Oh, sorry." I kind of I was exercising. That was my excuse. I was exercising. I just kind of glanced at the email. It says, congratulations. I thought, oh, that's great. So anyway, that was kind of funny. And she called me, my agent called me and, screamed in my ear for a little while saying how excited she was. So now I'm really excited because, now that I had a chance to process how big this is, I'm just thrilled. And I'm so thankful to the librarians for appreciating my book.
Yeah. Well, it really is a big deal. The American Library Association, it's an incredibly respected association, and they're the folks. They're the experts. They're the ones who are out there in the trenches every single day, helping people find great literature.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So I'm just super excited.
Well, that's...
I'm a little bit of a flake. But anyway, like I said, now that I've processed it, I'm really excited.
Well, we're really excited for you. It's a wonderful, wonderful, and it's well-deserved. And we're really excited to have you back on to talk about this brand new book, Bicycles in Beijing. Tell us all about it, please.
Okay. First of all, I am flaking again. It's actually called Two Bicycles in Beijing. It's okay. I just
It wasn't you flaking. I was the one flaking.
No, seriously. I have been occasionally writing, things to other people about Bicycles in Beijing, which was the original working title of the book.
Uh-huh.
But then we saw that there is another book that was published back in October with a very similar name. I think it was called A Bicycle in Beijing. And so my publisher talked to me about it, and we decided that Two Bicycles in Beijing would be a reasonably different title, different title, from the other one, so people wouldn't get confused. And it's a totally, totally different storyline. Mine is about friendship. The other one is about, boy's relationship with his father. So anyway, it is totally different. The covers are totally different, but I just have to remember, because I've been working on the story for, several years now, and I always called it Bicycles in Beijing because that was my working title. Mm-hmm. It's now Two Bicycles in Beijing.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that people don't understand, especially when if you're working with a major publishing house, or if you're working with a film studio. A lot of times, your work, your baby, it doesn't. You can lose ownership in some ways to it, and it can go through several changes. And I know there are a lot of books that have been made into films, and they have completely different titles.
Yeah, exactly. That is exactly it. People don't realize that, and for people who've been working on something for a long time and calling it one name, it's hard to switch gears and remember that, it's out in the world now. It's a totally different name. So yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. So Two Bicycles in Beijing, my first thought was, Two Bicycles in Beijing, that's not going to help a whole lot, because there's a whole lot of people in Beijing.
Well, it's very specifically about friendship, and the friendship starts with two bicycles, and it involves, a couple of kids too. But my inspiration for that was when my dad took my family and my sister to on a family trip to China back in 2013 to our ancestral homeland. And anyway, Beijing was one of the places we went to, and just the sights and sounds were so amazing. I thought up the story, and it's been kind of incubating for a while, and then I wrote it, and my agent liked it and sent it out, and the editor, Christina Polis, who bought it, really loved it too. So I'm really excited to be working with Christina again. She was the editor who bought Queen of Physics when she was working with Sterling, and she's just wonderful. I love her.
That's wonderful. What was it like traveling back to your ancestral homeland?
It was very interesting because I left Hong Kong. We immigrated when I was 8, and I was last in China. We took a family trip when, it was back in 1987. So that was the last time I was back in Hong Kong and China. And so it had been a long time, and things changed a lot there. And also this time, when my dad took us, my family had never been there before. My husband and 2 kids had never been there before. So that was, really interesting, seeing things through their eyes, and also seeing it differently now because, it had changed in the 25 years since I've been there last. So yeah, it was great.
We've had international students here living in our home, and
yeah.
Our first, it wasn't our first Chinese, but we had this one young woman who lived in Zhejiang, and she was here, and I was taking her around Boston, and I remembered pointing to something and said, and that building is almost 200 years old. Whoa. And then we went home, and I said, let's find out a little bit something about Zhejiang. And we typed it up on the old Google machine, and the first thing that came up is that they have a bridge there that's 1,600 years old.
Yeah, the U.S. is kind of a young nation.
Yeah. It's it really is, and it gives you kind of give you some perspective sometimes, and
Yeah.
I love those kind of moments for me because it's like, oh, this is kind of embarrassing, but that's okay. I learn from it.
That's right. As long as it's a learning experience, I think it's all good. That's the way I feel about things.
So what was the inspiration for Two Bicycles in Beijing? Was it, did you set off to write a story about a particular topic, or did the story come first and the lesson or, kind of moral of the story come along with it? Or was this just something that you dreamt up in the middle of the night?
Well, there really isn't any moral or lesson to the story at all. It was just, like I said, I was inspired by having been there in 2013 with my family and just the huge number of bicycles. I think I read some article shortly thereafter the trip just about, all the bikes in China and Beijing specifically. And so I think it just kind of fermented in my mind for a bit, and I thought, bicycles, that would be a cute story to write. Mm-hmm. And, I want to share about the, sights and sounds in Beijing. So it's mainly about that. And, of course, friendship is a perennial topic. So it just all kind of melted together from that.
I'm fascinated with China, not only because, probably the fascination came from the fact that we've had so many young people live with us from China. But it is, it is such a different culture, and and on some levels it seems like, wow, they are so different. How could we have anything in common with them? But then these women, and they have all been young women, and we've met some of the young male friends. They're people, and very quickly we find out that, you eat rice, I eat potatoes, and it's all good. We're all the same.
Oh, yeah. Yep, totally. Yeah. Absolutely.
What was it, I'm curious as to you, someone who lives here in the States now, going back, are you welcomed with open arms? Do folks kind of look at you differently? Are you accepted as a Chinese person, or is it a little bit different?
I've heard other people say that people look at them differently if, when they go back, because they look like everybody else, but they don't sound like everybody else. But, okay, first of all, I'm from Hong Kong, but my experience in China was that they are actually pretty used to tourists, and even though it was a mixed group, so, my dad, my sister, and I are, of course, Chinese, but my husband is white, and our kids are mixed, and nobody gave us a second look. I mean, they just have so many tourists in those, major areas that we went to that nobody really cared. And in Hong Kong, I was actually told by my cousins that my Cantonese is still so good that it seemed like I had never left, and so I kind of blended right in. So for me, it was just, really comfortable. And it's funny because some of my father's paranoid friends were warning us about, pickpockets and things like that in China, but we felt perfectly safe in both, China, different cities that we went to in China, and Hong Kong. So I don't know, I was very comfortable.
That's awesome. That's that's something you need to be careful of wherever you go, whether you're in China. We had the same kind of warnings when we were down in Costa Rica, and I think that I'd probably tell someone to be careful when they were walking around Boston to keep their stuff, by their side all the time. What kind I'm curious now, as an established writer, as an award-winning writer, have you had your books translated into different languages?
Not yet, because, it's been too soon, really. Queen of Physics came out in October last year, so it's just been, 4 months or so? So if they have plans to do it, I haven't heard about it. And like I said, it's just been too soon. It's been a whirlwind 4 or 5 months.
Wow. I talk about that. Talk about what it's like coming out, and you wrote Queen of Physics, and it's received so many accolades, and your head must be spinning a little bit with all this attention.
Yeah, just a little bit, although, on a daily basis, I'm cleaning bathrooms and doing the laundry, so it really feels like I haven't won that award at all or have had any books come out at all. But, yeah, when I start to think about it, it's kind of heady. It's like, oh, I won this thing. But, yeah, on the whole, I don't think about it a lot on a daily basis. Like I said, I'm still just mom, just a person who washes the dishes and, all that regular stuff.
Tell us who are we going to meet in Two Bicycles in Beijing? Who are the characters we're going to meet?
Well, the two main characters are the bicycles, and one is Lanzi, which translates to wheel, like a bicycle wheel. Mm-hmm. And the other one is Huangche, which translates to a yellow vehicle. So those are the two main characters, and then, like I said, there are going to be two little kids involved, and you'll see how the friendships evolved in the story. And mainly, my illustrator did this amazing job with the illustrations, and they're just fabulous. You really get a feel of being in Beijing in the fall. It's gorgeous. I'm just like, the authors talk about when they first get their, illustrations to look at, they get tears. Well, yeah, that was me. It was just beautiful. I love her art so much. So, yeah, I can't say much more without, giving things away, but I think you'll just love the art.
That's, art is... Were you surprised as an author how important the illustrations are in a book?
Well, not really, because I have taken classes and I'm self-taught as an illustrator myself. Sorry, so I have taken classes, and I realized what was involved, in producing the picture books. I wasn't super surprised, but not knowing how the illustrator will interpret your words, that's the surprise. And it's been a very pleasant surprise so far. I've just been so pleased with both Rebecca's for the first book and Junyi's for the second book. So, yeah, so the answer is no, I wasn't surprised, because I do have training as an illustrator, but the nice surprise came in when I first got the, proofs of the illustration to look at.
Now, both of your books have dealt with Asian themes. In Queen of Physics, we meet this beautiful and incredibly talented young Asian woman, and then we're talking about Two Bicycles in Beijing and learning about friendship in Beijing. Is that important for you to write about Asia and present Asia and the cultures and Asian people to folks here in America?
Absolutely. Well, with the We Need Diverse Book movement and inclusivity these days especially, but I've gotten to the age where I'm very nostalgic, and it's unfortunate that my mom has passed away, because I would love to ask her more about my background, my history, my culture. I mean, I know some of it, but not all of it. So what I can remember, I really want to bring to the page and share with people my experiences and just how it feels, to be someone of a different culture, of a minority culture in America.
Yeah, minority in America, but majority in the world.
Yes. That's true. That is true.
One thing we talked about, you using your books to introduce Americans, non-Asians, to Asian culture. Do you also find, I've talked about this with a number of friends. There are actually more Irish Americans or more people of Irish descent living in America than there are people living in Ireland. And the same is true in Puerto Rico. My father-in-law used to joke about if every Puerto Rican in America who says they're going to move back to Puerto Rico actually does, they're going to have to put a second floor in the island. there are so many Chinese people who are living here in America, and they've been living here in America for generations and generations. Are you finding that there are a lot of Asian Americans who are picking up your books to find out more about this culture that their families left generations ago?
I think so. I think there are a lot of people who are interested in where, their ancestors came from and, how their outlook on life. I mean, granted, I can't go back 5 generations for them and find out how their great-great-grandparents felt, but I think they are curious. I mean, I would be if I were 3rd or 4th generation here. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know people are people, but, the background where you come from definitely has some impact on, the person you are today. And I think that people are curious because, well, they don't have grandparents to ask, and, their parents, if they were born and raised here, they may not know as much too. So I think they're definitely curious about, books of people who, with characters, who aren't from here, who are immigrants, but from, their cultural background.
Right. What's next from Theresa Robson? What are you working on?
I am working on a nonfiction middle grade and working on a proposal for that. So hopefully I'll get it done soon and my agent can send it out soon. I'm pretty excited about it because it's a woman in science again. Science and my culture are my 2 favorite things to write about. And so there's that. And I'm also working on a couple of own voices stories that are picture books. So got to finish those and send them off to my agent.
That is awesome. Now, we know where we can find your roots. Your roots are in Hong Kong. Where can folks find out more about you on the net?
Well, TheresaRobson.com is my website, and I'm also on Twitter, probably more than I should be. So it would be, Twitter at Theresa Robson, just one word.
Wonderful. Well, we've been talking to the American Library Association Youth Media Award winner in the Asian Pacific American category, Teresa Robson. Her new book, Two Bicycles in Beijing, is available for pre-order right now, and it will be available on bookshelves in just a few weeks. Teresa, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you, Jed. You're always a pleasure to talk to. You make my morning.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Brian Ray. He'll be here to tell us about his fascinating book called Max's Box. That's the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are so excited that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. If you are the author of a great children's book, we'd love to have you as a guest on the podcast. Being a guest is fun, it's easy, and it gives you the chance to tell thousands of people about your fantastic book. It doesn't cost it costs a little bit of your time. Yeah, you have to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, click on the contact button that you find at the bottom of the page, and let us know about your great book. We'll let you know the next easy steps. That's it. That's all the time you need to invest to be a guest on the podcast. We want to thank the folks who made today's show so very, very wonderful. We want to thank our guest, Theresa Robson. Be sure to check out Two Bicycles in Beijing. Also want to thank the members of my team. I can't do this podcast without them. I want to thank my producer, Fatima Khan. Please be sure to check out her blog at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank my author, Ambassador Peggy Cotto. If you need to get in touch with Peggy about any of our promotional services, you can go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com, and click on the Author Services button, or you can email Peggy directly, Peggy@jedlie.com, and Jedlie is spelled Jedlie. I also want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio, but most of all, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, and as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be with you through the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.